Thank you so much for joining us for CBN News Watch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, the questions over a possible nuclear deal with Iran. Will the Trump administration demand Iran give up its ability to enrich uranium and make nuclear weapons? Or will it allow Iran to keep that capability? We're going to hear about Israeli concerns over these nuclear negotiations and possible mixed signals from the White House. And President Donald Trump talking about the possibility of a new ceasefire and hostage deal in Gaza before he heads to the Middle East next week. The president also talking about a major announcement before he takes that trip, leading some to speculate there may be an agreement on normalization of relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia. We're going to bring you a look at that possibility and much more. And we're going to take you to the U.S. southern border for a first-hand look at the impact of the dramatic drop in illegal border crossings. All those stories and more right now on CBN News Watch.
This is CBN News Watch.
It is Thursday, May 8th. I want to begin this half hour with the concerns in Israel over the nuclear negotiations with Iran, as some worry the White House seems to be sending mixed signals on what to do with Iran's nuclear program. As CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell reports now from Jerusalem, the future of the Middle East may hinge on these key decisions.
A major issue is Iran's ability to enrich uranium. President Trump told reporters Wednesday he hasn't decided whether or not to demand Iran stop enriching uranium.
We haven't made that decision yet. We will, but we haven't made that decision yet.
But he also said on the Hugh Hewitt show this week, Iran's nuclear centrifuges used to enrich uranium have to go.
There are only two alternatives there: blow them up nicely or blow them up viciously.
Iran is the only country in the world that doesn't have nuclear weapons, yet keeps enriching uranium to the point where it can make nuclear bombs. Israel insists the only way to derail Iran is to totally dismantle Iran's nuclear facilities, either voluntarily or through a military strike. When asked Wednesday about whether he's about to propose a new Gaza ceasefire and hostage deal before heading to the Middle East, Trump said the following.
There's a lot of talk going on about Gaza right now. You know that, right? So you'll be knowing probably in the next 24 hours.
Trump stated Tuesday there are less hostages alive in Gaza than Israel has said.
As of today, it's 21. 3 have died. So this is a terrible situation.
But on Wednesday, Prime Minister Netanyahu explained.
We know for sure that there are 21 live hostages. There's no debate about that. There are 3 more who, unfortunately, there is doubt whether they are alive.
Chris Mitchell is joining us now from Jerusalem to continue our coverage. So, Chris, Iran has said it will never get rid of its nuclear centrifuges to enrich uranium, which can be used for nuclear weapons. How important of a sticking point is this for Israel?
Well, Ephraim, it's a huge sticking point for Israel. And the question over here is, why do they even need these centrifuges enriching uranium if they need civilian peaceful purposes for their nuclear program? So it's a big concern over here. The concern as well is, will the U.S. strike a deal with Iran that's good for the United States, but it really ignores the needs of Israel? President Trump has pledged Iran won't get a nuclear weapon. The question is, how is that going to be achieved? So deep concern about a bad deal. And what would a bad deal be? We've talked about this before, allowing Iran to keep those centrifuges, keep enriching uranium, even to minimum like 3.67%. For Israel, anything less than the total destruction of its nuclear infrastructure, that's what they want.
Is any kind of a deal possible if Iran refuses to shut them down?
Well, we don't know right now. It seems like there's uncertainty about what exactly the United States is looking for and what they would allow Iran to keep. So that's how their positions seem to be shifting. Will they accept a civilian nuclear program? A bit of uncertainty about enrichment. And as I said, for Israel, nothing short of destruction of Iran's nuclear infrastructure is what they want. They want, and Prime Minister Netanyahu has talked about this in the past, what's called the Libyan model, when Muammar Gaddafi voluntarily allowed his nuclear program to be destroyed. And I think that's what President Trump was referring to. They can destroy it voluntarily or violently, and that would be a military strike. So it remains to be seen, and a very uncertain future right now for Israel in the Middle East about Iran's nuclear program.
Is it possible Israel could strike Iran even if the United States agrees to a nuclear deal?
Well, that would be very complicated and involve a number of risks, Ephraim. It would put Netanyahu, it would be a risk for him. He's lived literally most of his life promising that Iran will not get a nuclear weapon. Famously, he's been to the UN. He showed, pictures of a bomb where how close that Iran is to a nuclear weapon. What would happen? I personally think he would do it if he felt it was the only way to stop Iran from a nuclear weapon. And there's something called the Begin Doctrine. That was a former prime minister of Israel called Menachem Begin. His doctrine was he won't allow any of Israel's neighbors to gain a weapon of mass destruction. And we saw that in 1981. They did destroy the nuclear reactor by Saddam Hussein. They did it in 2007 with a Syrian nuclear reactor. I suspect Netanyahu would do it. Israel would do it if they had to make sure that Iran would not get a nuclear weapon.
Let's talk about Gaza for a moment. If some sort of ceasefire deal is reached, would that hold off Israel's planned massive offensive against Hamas in Gaza?
It would seem to, and they have said that the plan to take over and conquer all of Gaza was going to be on hold till after the the Mideast trip by President Trump, if there was a ceasefire, if there was a release of hostages. But so far, Israel says Hamas is refusing any deal that doesn't include the end of the war and the pullout of all Israeli troops. Those are non-starters for Israel. So the situation, does look bleak right now for any particular hostage deal. And as I said, the offensive, which is a major change in the strategy of Israel in the Gaza Strip. Before it had based on more special operations actions that would take over territory but leave. Now they're going to take over the territory and hold it. But a ceasefire deal would change certainly the dynamic of anything going on in Gaza.
Chris, we understand Israel has shut down 6 schools operated by the United Nations Relief and Works Agency in East Jerusalem. Can you tell us more about that and why it's important?
Well, it's important because of the curriculum, and I'll show you an example, Ephraim. This is a Palestinian Authority textbook, and it has a picture right here of Dalal Mughrabi. And this curriculum is the Palestinian Authority curriculum that is taken over by UNRWA. Why is she important? Well, because in 1978, she led a terror attack and killed 37 Israelis, one of the biggest terror attacks at that time. So UNRWA uses this kind of curriculum to take a woman like this and make her a role model for people in UNRWA schools. So we've been talking to a man named David Bedin year after year, who's really an expert on UNRWA and this curriculum. And he says there's 3 points in UNRWA schools and their curriculum: delegitimization of Israel's existence, demonization of Jews in Israel, and that there would be no peace. And so that is why it's so significant that Israel is shutting down these UNRWA schools that teach this kind of curriculum here, right in Jerusalem.
All right, our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, thank you so much for your insights. We look forward to hearing from you in the days and weeks ahead. Coming up, could President Donald Trump be set to make a major announcement about a development in the Middle East? One major possibility, normalizing relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia. We're going to hear about that when we come back. You're watching CBN News Watch.
Introducing a brand new way to start your morning. Get your daily quick start from CBN News. A quick read on the important news of the day delivered right to your inbox. Stay current on breaking news, politics, and entertainment. Discover how God is moving around the world and here at home. Plus, get exclusive stories and daily scripture encouragement just for you. Stay informed. Go to quickstart.news and subscribe today.
President Donald Trump is set to announce a major trade deal today with the United Kingdom. The president saying it cements the relationship between the two countries for many years to come. But he may also make another major announcement before his upcoming trip to the Middle East. The president promised it would be, quote, earth-shattering, as big as it gets. On this week's episode of The Global Lane, Jewish News Syndicate Jerusalem Bureau Chief Alex Trayman says many people speculate it could be an agreement to normalize relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia.
It assumed that you would not get to such an agreement during the war, especially as Israel is now preparing to have a new offensive inside the Gaza Strip, and the Iranian nuclear threat is yet to be diffused. There are also people that are suggesting that it may be an announcement regarding Iran. And there was reports on Persian media, which we're still trying to confirm, that the new president, Pezeshkian, may even be meeting with Donald Trump in Saudi Arabia during the trip. Again, we have to look to confirm those reports, and we don't know what's ultimately going to happen, but it could be that President Trump is going to announce that there's been some kind of breakthrough in the talks with Iran. So a lot of possibilities, and the president really keeps people guessing with regard to major announcements.
Well, I want to talk about Iran in a moment, but back to this whole idea of the Abrahamic Accords expansion there. What would that mean for the Middle East and Israel?
Well, Saudi Arabia has really been considered the prize from the beginning with regard to any kind of normalization agreements with Israel, Saudi Arabia being the cradle of Sunni Islam. But I think for Israel, for the Saudis, this could be a major economic boost for the region. The president would like to see the creation of some kind of alternative pipeline coming from the Arab world and a new trade route, basically going from India through the Gulf states onto Israel, which could then transport goods to Europe and to the Western world. So there's a lot of possibilities if a normalization agreement could be reached.
Yeah, and it would further isolate Iran. And onto Iran, U.S. nuclear negotiator, presidential envoy Steve Witkoff has received some criticism here in the U.S. as a fine business negotiator, but one who doesn't really understand the Iranian mindset and the Middle East. So do you agree with that? And what's the danger of miscalculating, not understanding Islam and Iran?
Well, you have the same negotiator who, doesn't really have much experience at all as a diplomat, a businessman who is leading the negotiations with the Qataris and Hamas for the release of hostages in Gaza. The same one who is leading negotiations with Iran. The same one who's meeting with Vladimir Putin regarding negotiations to end the war between Russia and Ukraine. And you had Witkoff also apparently negotiating with the Houthis. Each one of these theaters that Witkoff is negotiating on has a unique culture. The Russians are nothing like the Iranians, which are nothing like the Houthis, which are nothing like the Qataris and Hamas. And unless you really understand the culture of the place in which you're entering into negotiations, you could be played.
Well, let's pray he understands the Islamic concept of taqiyya. What about Gaza? Trump says there are only 21 hostages still alive. Is that accurate? It may prove a bit difficult, I think, to negotiate their release with Operation Gideon's Chariots in full force, the expanded IDF military effort there. What do you think?
Well, the estimates are that there's anywhere from 21 to 24 living hostages out of 59 missing Israelis remaining in the Gaza Strip. And it's been the Israeli position that the only way that you get Hamas to make a reconciliation and to offer to release hostages when they feel like they are under threat. Unless they have the motivation to release hostages, they're not going to release hostages because those are the only cards that they have.
And some members of the U.S. Congress are concerned that Israel is not allowing humanitarian aid to get through to the Palestinians in Gaza. So what do you see happening there? I've heard that trusted groups may be allowed in, and how dangerous would that be for those humanitarian relief workers?
Well, I mean, it's just an unbelievable double standard that you have Hamas declaring war on the state of Israel on October 7th with over 6,000 people crossing the border, murdering 1,200 people, kidnapping 250 others, injuring thousands, and then Israel going into the Gaza Strip in order to remove the terrorists from power and to try to find their hostages. And the international community is putting a demand on Israel to be the one facilitating the delivery of humanitarian aid into an enemy population. I mean, you just have never seen anything like that. Hamas is still a potent military force, much smaller than they were at the beginning. So whoever is going to be delivering humanitarian aid, it's a very dangerous endeavor in one of the world's most backwards and damaged and dangerous theaters.
Yes, not an easy task. Okay, Alex Traiman, JNS Jerusalem Bureau Chief. Always good to talk with you, Alex, and get your insights. Thank you. God bless you.
Thanks for having me.
Also on this week's episode of The Global Lane, a new restrictive law targeting missionaries in China and a look at why the number of people calling themselves Christians may be shrinking here in the United States. You can see it all on The Global Lane this evening on the CBN News Channel. It begins at 8 Eastern. You can also see it on the CBN News app, and you can find it on YouTube. Still ahead here at home, a day in the life of Border Patrol agents. We're going to bring you a first-hand look at the everyday impact of the dramatic decline in border crossings. That story's coming up for you right after this. A few days ago, the Pentagon created a second military zone on the southern border near El Paso, Texas. U.S. troops patrol this area to stop migrants crossing into the country illegally. It is just one of the many changes put in place by the Trump administration. CBN's Paul Petit rode along with Border Patrol agents in El Paso to see the impact firsthand.
U.S. Customs and Border Patrol agent Claudio Herrera speeds along the border wall, responding to reports of an illegal crossing. When he arrives, a K-9 unit has already tracked down a Honduran couple.
This is the reality they're going to face, right? Being apprehended and at the end of the day being removed out of the country because they are violating Title VIII.
This is one of around 40 apprehensions today in the El Paso sector. Compare that to 2,700 a day just 2 years ago.
The last administration didn't care. They didn't enforce anything. This administration came back in all of a sudden and said, you know what? We're not going to allow that anymore. We're going to do, and sent the message that we're going to pick you up and we're going to send you back. And it's worked.
Now the U.S. military supports the mission with choppers in the air and armored vehicles on the ground. The result? The number of gotaways here has dropped from hundreds to zero. A major shift that's also showing in morale.
There's a big change. So before this administration, morale was at a low-time low. Suicide rates were high, domestic violence was high, alcoholism was high. Now that we are getting back to work to doing what we came to do in this place, apprehending people, tracking people down, it's just changed dramatically.
Trump administration policies are also making an impact, such as lifting vehicle pursuit restrictions.
This time, Border Patrol is engaging, but before they were told to back off and not pursue.
In March, illegal crossings hit a record low, just over 7,000 migrants compared to 137,000 last year.
This is what we signed for, to protect our borders, to protect our country.
Even though illegal border crossings have plummeted, the agents say the battle is relentless. These fences had to be put up to keep rocks from being thrown at their patrol cars. That's why for many here in the El Paso sector, the agents say it's important to know that their battle goes beyond flesh and blood.
This is the reality of the evil that we're facing.
Cartels light candles to the so-called Lady of Holy Death, believing she grants protection.
When the reality is that is demonic, is just pure evil.
Cartels still dominate Mexico's border regions, especially in Juarez, where agents found 281 stash houses last year.
They control it 100%, contrary to what the media may say or what anything. You're not going through those areas unless you're on that cartel's deal. And if you get caught in that area trying to circumvent them, you may pay a very dear price with your life.
With fees as high as $20,000 per person, smuggling is big business, although the crackdown is hitting hard. That's led to a rise, however, in kidnappings and threats against agents.
When they go out to the field, they like to pray, and when they come back, they like to pray.
Agent Herrera says he and his team can't operate without it.
But just know that God is with you and everywhere you go. Even in the valley of the shadow of death, he will always be with you. One thing, especially for myself as a chaplain, is I get to go out there and pray for these guys, and it's one of the highlights of my job.
As for stopping illegal crossings, it's happening fast. Once crowded migrant trails now sit empty.
It is very gratifying for us to see the actual results of having consequences and having a government that is for the safety and for the well-being of our communities.
In El Paso, Texas, Paul Petit, CBN News.
We're coming back with an encouraging word for your Thursday. Stay with us. You're watching CBN News Watch.
Download the CBN News app, 24/7 news from a Christian perspective at home or on the road. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Set daily prayer goals and pray for news stories. Read the most important news and watch CBN News Channel live. CBN News, because truth matters. Go to cbnnewsapp.com to get the app today. Introducing a brand new way to start your morning, the CBN News Quick Start Podcast. Each weekday morning at 7 a.m., get quick highlights of the day's important news. Then an in-depth analysis that goes beyond the headlines. Insights that matter to people of faith. Discover how God is moving around the world and here at home. Find the CBN News Quick Start Podcast on iTunes or wherever you enjoy listening to podcasts, because truth matters.
Time now for your Thursday Thankful, and today I hope you'll join me in this prayer of gratitude. God, thank you for the doors you close. While I don't enjoy it in the moment, I now see your hand in the memory, and you know what is best for me. So again, all I can say is thank you. Help me to love your will, your way, and your timing more than I love my own. That will do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can always find more of our programs on the CBN News channel at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and X. We'll see you back here tomorrow.